We are back, everybody, pursuing financial freedom. Welcome to the Manumet Podcast here with Glenn Johnson, registered investment advisor at Jabez Financial and also the head of the Manumet Foundation. And this is the Manumet Podcast. You can check it out, jabezfinancial.com. Click on the podcast tab. It's right there, front dead center of the page. And also the number to call Glenn and the team is right there in the top left of jabezfinancial.com. That's 860-390-0093. And there's a contact button on the far right of the page, along with links to all of Glenn's social media. He's got it up on YouTube, even a LinkedIn page, Instagram, and Facebook. Glenn, you're all over the place there. And you have some big news about the book that you helped author a chapter in.
Yes, yeah, that was exciting. The book, The Motivation Manifesto, has now officially a bestseller.
That's congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Love that. We love that. And so it's officially bestseller. Which list was that? New York Times bestseller or Amazon? Where are they measuring that?
The bestseller list was measured on Amazon, but the book is found. You can purchase it at jabezfinancial.com. That's where it's listed for sale.
jabezfinancial.com. There's a book tab right there, top right of the page, next to the contact button. And I know you've explained it before, but let's say this is the first time someone's picked up the podcast here. Just real quickly, what was your involvement with the book? Who's the main author and who are the other people involved?
Well, last year, after being nominated and listed in Marquis' Who's Who in America, I was contacted by Les Brown and his team and requested that my story be published in a book along with 14 other co-authors, 15, including Les Brown, about telling their stories about how they've overcome a variety of different types of adversities and accomplishments, and how you can successfully overcome whatever it is that you're facing, as long as you've chosen to have the right attitude with a victorious mindset in the process.
The victorious mindset, the right attitude, the Motivation Manifesto. That's the name of the book. And Glenn, I know that is like the core of what you were about. Listen to these podcasts, all of which you can find, again, on the podcast tab, jabezfinancial.com, and on Apple, Spotify, some of the other podcatchers. And you'll see that it's very much about mind over matter here, although the matter matters too. Get that update from Glenn. And Glenn, you also took that mantra, I believe, to Bowling Green University. Tell me about that recent speaking gig you had.
Yeah, so I was invited to speak at Bowling Green University out in Ohio, which was a fantastic experience because we had 60 plus future pilots and got to talk to them about really what's involved in developing themselves as a leader, both being able to guide others and being able to have the self-discipline to lead themselves with the kind of emotional maturity needed when you have hundreds of people's lives in your hands.
Gosh, yeah. And so pertinent considering some of the headlines we've seen lately too, right? Talking to a group of pilots at Bowling Green University there. Of course, you're out of Uncasville, Connecticut, but I'm sure it was well worth. Did you drive or fly there? I don't even know how expedient that would be.
My wife and I flew out there for the weekend. We also got to spend the weekend with some really good friends of mine. And the whole experience, start to finish, was fantastic. And what was really interesting was after I spoke, this was right before the kids went on spring break. There was a half a dozen of them or so that stayed after class to talk with me for another half an hour plus.
Wow.
Asking questions, being really intrigued about what is it that they need to learn to grow and to mature to become the people they were created to be. It was fascinating. And the messages that I received afterward were a real blessing. And it's great to see how God works. You know, he puts us in these places where we can actually make a difference in someone's lives at a time when people's minds are open and ready to receive it. And it was great to see that here's people in their early 20s that are seeking wisdom, seeking knowledge. But a lot of times people will get older and then they stop wanting to learn. And that's where they get stuck.
Yeah. Gosh, isn't that the truth? So you're telling me there's hope for the future generation, Glenn?
Absolutely. There's hope for anybody that chooses to have it.
There's so many people of your ilk, Glenn, and you're a unicorn because you have so much positivity. There's so many people in your lane that say the opposite of that just are bemoaning, stupid millennials and Gen Z or whatever. So I'm glad to hear some positive dispatches from the Gen Z corner, and they're very lucky to have spoken to you, Glenn. So thank you for doing that.
And there was a lot of talk about the lazy millennials. I'm thinking, well, who raised them?
Ooh, yeah. I mean,
Just saying.
yeah, right there in the mirror, right there in the mirror. Okay, well, Glenn, before, but we could sit there and do a whole show about that. And I urge you all to go back and listen to our past 2 episodes just about planning your financial future. It starts with you, by the way, people listening, and also adjusting your financial sales, making the adjustments you need to during that financial journey. Again, check those out. Podcast tab, jbezfinancial.com. Today, it's really, I would say, the first of a 2-part series, Glenn, because we're going to talk about the steps needed to make your financial plan today. Our next episode is going to be about 3 things to do after making the plan. So the first 2 steps, basically, Glenn, to starting that financial plan, the journey to make the plan. All right, if we got enough metaphors there. So take it away.
Well, step 1, simply put, if it's to be, it's up to me. We've got to assume responsibility. And, I know we've talked about that a lot, but it's it's such a majorly important first step, because people that don't take step 1 normally don't take step 2. So that's when it comes to, and it also relates back to increasing the quality of life, which is, how do you see yourself? Are you the kind of man, are you the kind of woman that assumes responsibility for things when you're not forced to? It's the definition of being an adult.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to managing your finances and setting yourself up, it's all on you. No one's going to force you to take care of your own financial future. So let's start there. And we do that. And in the process of assuming responsibility for our futures and say, I'm going to do something to make my financial future better. As soon as you accept that, you immediately start to feel better about yourself, and your quality of life improves right away. So let's start there. Let's start with assuming the responsibility, even if you don't know where to start. And that's okay, because you make the commitment to doing something about it first. Step number 2, call my office. Get in touch with me. Schedule an appointment. Get on the calendar. Every president, every CEO, they have their advisory board because they're running something of significance, whether it be a business, a country, or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, your life is significant. So everybody has to have kind of like as CEO of your own life, you need to put together your own personal advisory board.
Right.
And seek wise counsel.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and that includes, of course, important people in your life. Where does I mean, it's obvious that a financial advisor is going to influence your finances, but what are some of the things that maybe people don't think of that someone like you, Glenn, would help them with? Because I think I've heard you say, and I've heard people like you tell me about things that you've talked about with clients that I never would have thought someone that I think just crunches numbers would have any business talking about. And yet you are forced to deal with it and do a good job of it.
If it were as simple as just basic math, it wouldn't be, advice wouldn't be needed. Here's one: don't spend more than you make. There you go. And if
hold on, I'm just writing that down and sending it to Washington real quick. Okay, go ahead.
Well, the government can make money. The rest of us have to earn it.
Yeah, that's correct. Oh boy, that's next episode's
right. So, I guess that's where I would begin. You assume responsibility, and why the value in getting some advice from the right person that can connect with you and identify with you and understand really where you're coming from, not just financially, but what your emotional experience around money has been. Some people have had a tremendous experience. They were born into affluence. They were given good financial habits, and they've been the second or third generation of creating more wealth. Then there's people that are born into poverty and fight their way out of it. So there's an emotional experience along with that too. So what I see is hundreds of people's experiences. So if you're just living your own life, making your own decisions, you can make your decisions based upon your own personal experience. How would you like to have the financial experience of 500 people and be able to pick the pieces of wisdom from that and apply it to your life?
Well, and I think about too, a lot of what you talk about here on the Manument podcast is very much It's not just defining, Social Security rules or telling people what a QCD is or something like that. It's very much advice, right? That applies to all facets of life. And even as one of your other passions, you're a marriage counselor, right? So I'm sure a lot of your other life experiences end up happening in the office there when someone comes to meet with you.
Happens every day. It happens every day.
Yeah,
And what's nice is when people, from the time they walk in the door to the time they walk out, they're walking out feeling more confident, more encouraged, and more optimistic about what tomorrow's going to bring. Because
sure.
when you're pointed in the right direction, now you can start to have a clearer vision of the good things that can come. So coming in to sit down and talk about the finances as an ideal place to start, it's one of the easiest things to address.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
really is. And so we take these experiences that we've had with working with hundreds of people over the years, and we can extract this life lesson from this client, this life lesson from another one, and put all these things together. And so when I sit down with somebody after doing this for 2.5 decades, it's not hard to apply those wisdoms and those little tips, those little things, those minor changes somebody can make that have a profound difference on their future.
Little changes make a profound difference here. Now, Glenn, what's an example? Okay, because this second one is, as much as I believe assuming responsibility is an important step, this second one of just making the step to call you, like people could do at 860-390-0093 or by going to jbezfinancial.com and set up that first appointment. There's that inertia. There's that, maybe it's not fear as much as, oh, I'll get to it later, right? The lack of urgency and starting to create that plan. Do you have an example of someone who wishes that they had called you or any financial advisor earlier? If only they had done it, they would have ended up in a lot better shape.
So you're asking for a list of all my clients.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Hundreds of people over the years, right?
That's right.
But I'm sure the light bulb comes on. You realize, like, or maybe they had an advisor who wasn't telling them this other thing, and you're like, no, you could do this strategy, whatever it is, and they're like, oh my God, if I'd done that this many years earlier, it'd be $100,000 difference or whatever. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, we're literally talking about a lot of money and a lot of peace of mind, both mind and matter affected by these decisions.
That's right. I don't claim to be smarter than the next guy. I know we're all ignorant on a different set of subjects. And so I'm actually the biggest benefactor of the relationship here because I get to learn so much from everybody else's hardships and experience. So
True.
that's why this whole career has been such a fantastic benefit to me. And with that, I want to be able to make a difference in somebody else's life. And it really works out to be a win-win relationship across the board. So that step 2 of picking up the phone to call my office, send me an email, get in touch with me to get on the calendar. We have to overcome whatever challenge that is, whether it is giving ourselves a sense of urgency by just physically pushing ourselves to say, you know what, maybe this isn't critically important right now, or maybe I don't see it as urgent, but in your own mind, you have to make it urgent. And then you find out how urgent it really was after the fact sometimes.
Yeah.
And
no doubt.
The other hard part with making a phone call is, nobody likes to pick up the phone and call somebody they don't know. It's awkward.
That's
it's awkward.
True.
And even if you're the customer, you walk into a store and someone says, the furniture salesman walks up to you and say, "Can I help you?" Immediately, I feel all uncomfortable and defensive. And I walked into the store.
Yeah.
Those little things can be awkward. And
Yeah.
what I want to do is put people at ease to realize that when you call my office, you don't even have to know what to say. You don't have to say, I have this problem. I need this solution. I want to find out about this. You don't even need to know what questions to ask. You just have to know that you need something. So you pick up the phone, call my office and say, you know what? I'd like to stop in and meet Glenn. Period.
Right.
And start there. We'll take it from there.
And you mentioned it's a win for you because you also get to gain the life experience. A win, of course, for somebody else because they get to glean off of your experiences. And hopefully chart a really good plan that can help them save money and be in the right position they need to be for retirement. So the way to get that conversation started, 860-390-0093, or go to jbezfinancial.com. And of course, when you're there, you can snag the book co-authored by Glenn there. He has one of the chapters in the Motivation Manifesto. And Glenn, I love this, just to kind of round this out. You live by the 5 F's.
That's
Say
right.
those to people one more time. We haven't said them in a few episodes.
I've got a banner here in my office. It's faith, family, friends, fitness, finances. Your faith, family, friends, and fitness, it's all a relationship. Your finances, it's not a relationship. It's just a tool. It doesn't love you back. But you know what?
Is.
When we have our own personal advisory board that can help us navigate and build this creation, which is our life and our legacy, let's get an advisory board together that can help us with those faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances, and build a lifestyle, create a legacy, and leave your mark.
Build that advisory board, and that helps you do better to leave your mark. And we all would like to leave a good legacy on this earth, just like Glenn is doing right now. Glenn is the registered investment advisor again at Jabez Financial, and is doing so much to help others there. See if he is the right fit for you. It's a two-way street, right? Again, dial him up, 860-390-0093, and even send him an email, gbj@jabezfinancial.com. You can get right in touch. Glenn, thank you so much for your time today, and I look forward to learning more.
Right back at you.
And thanks all of you for listening. Thanks to our producer, Daniel Salerson, for getting this stitched up and published. This has been the Manuman Podcast, and be sure to like and subscribe. And if you know somebody in your circle that needs to hear it, send them the link too. We have episodes that come out roughly every 2 weeks. We'll have another episode coming your way. Things to do, 3 things, in fact, after defining that financial plan. So stay tuned for that. This has been the Manuman Podcast.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Glenn Johnson, Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.